Yeah, hello, 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 hello. I know, here we go again, another podcast, but this one's a little special and I'll probably rub some people the wrong way, but it's something that I've been thinking about and wanted to talk about, and it kind of talks to what's going on lately with a lot of people and how they respond and, all of that. So, first thing is, if you have a chance, subscribe, please. Like to keep you up to speed on what we're doing. I posted some information on the Purple Pain Forum, and a member called Beck MT responded with language like this here. You haven't been around long enough to know all the pain that we felt as Viking fans, all the hard losses, that kind of language. I can't remember exactly what he said, but I was like speechless, speechless. And I'll tell you why. I became a fan in 1969. I felt our very first major loss at Super Bowl between us and the Chiefs. I was 10. I had to go find a place to be by myself and cry. I was 10, so and I've had many, 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 disappointing losses since then, as you can imagine. So, Beck MT, if you listen to this, when you make a statement like that, kind of know what you're talking about, and you should do a little homework before you make such a bold statement. Now, there's been a lot of talk about Jalen Ramsey joining our team, and I'm not sure it's more of that or more of we don't want Xavier Rhodes here anymore. And that's kind of not sitting too well with me. Number one, I like Xavier Rhodes, and I think he needs to stay and he can play and he can help us get to the Super Bowl. The other part that I don't like is how it feels like we want to get rid of Xavier Rhodes because then you can start bad mouthing him, kind of like what's going on with Antonio Brown. And I know that that's kind of some controversy and some areas that we don't like to discuss. I don't know Antonio Brown. I don't know how he lives his life. But the thing I want to talk about is when there's a problem between me and another person, any conflict, I always say when I take a step back, I'm the problem. I always start there. And I do that because a lot of times I am the problem. It could be that I just like to argue or I just like conflicts. I'm competitive. That's part of the problem. It's not so much I'm a bad guy. It's just that I'm extremely competitive and I always like to be right. And I like to compete in every form or fashion. So that's part of the problem. But the reason why I want to talk about, you're the problem is this whole thing about Antonio Brown and how when I posted, we should get him, all the negative stuff was just so off the charts, and it kind of reminded me of history lesson that I want to give you in 2 seconds here. Calling him this, calling him that, and in the history lesson is so we got to go back 200, 300, 400 years ago when your great 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 granddaddies had this like brilliant idea that they needed landscaping help. So they got this big old boat and they went over to Africa and found some landscaping help. Now let's just assume that the men and the women that they captured and brought back were human. And can you just imagine the human suffering that they went through coming back on these boats, tied up, small quarters? They never been on a boat before, I'm sure, and seasickness, and I mean, it must have been horrible. And we're not talking about on a boat for like 4 hours. We're talking about like 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. I don't even know how long it took, and still not knowing what was going on. And then they get here, and they finally get to where they're going to stay, and it becomes clear what the expectation is. And the expectation from your granddaddies was, you guys are going to work all day long for nothing. We're going to give you horrible living conditions. You're going to be fed, but not the best. And don't even look at our women to the guys, all of that. And if you don't conform, bad things are going to happen. Bad things are going to happen. Now that's true. That's what happened. I'm not saying that that's something you did, but it's something that happened. That was the expectation. And I think today some of you still have that expectation. Like if an Antonio Brown doesn't conform, or like Xavier Rhodes doesn't play as good as he does, he's this and he's that and he's the other thing, and it's crazy how the thought is still the same. Like when a guy doesn't conform, you want to start calling him a piece of shit. And I mean, Antonio Brown needs to be able to live his life the way he thinks he should. Now, I don't know if he raped this girl or not. My guess is probably not. I think it's money motivated, but I could be wrong. That's why we have court. He'll have his day and she'll have her day, and we'll take it from there. But to say that he's, guilty right off the bat, I had a response to one of my posts, and the guy said he called Antonio a rapist. And I'm like, wait a minute, no, he's a accused rapist. There's a big difference. Any female can, claim rape at any time. And there was a case in USC where this college student went to a local bar. He gets there, and this girl who's been drinking all over him, saying all sorts of things. Come on, let's go back to my place. What are you, gay? And, on and on and on. And he says, no, wait until you're sober. And she kept pulling on him, and she was, kind of attractive. And so, he finally gave in, and they went back and they had sex. And she wakes up and she goes to campus police and says, I was raped. And now he had to fight that for a year, money spent, and he still got kicked out of college, even though it was dismissed, because from the the cameras, the video that was found, you clearly saw that she was the aggressor and all that. So that's why I'm saying, until we know for sure, I mean, you can't call a guy this or that and the other thing. And so my concern is that we want to get rid of Rhodes, because now we're going to badmouth him, saying, he was lazy, he was this, he was that, he wasn't playing up to speed and all that. I want to get away from that. I want it to be just, if there's an issue, look at yourself first and say, look, I'm the problem here. My expectations is just out of whack, and we need to look at this a little bit differently. And I think when you do that, you'll have a better relationship with people at work, family members, even some enemies, believe it or not. So that's my Black Friday. I know it's probably going to lose me some viewers, if I even have any, but it's something that needs to be said, and I'm glad I got it out of the way today. But as far as Sunday, we look good. I'm feeling good. It's going to be a win. Skull.